Yeah, I would, because as more people nearshore, and this isn't as it hasn't just popped up since 2022. People have been doing this for longer than that. Like we opened 2019, there's companies open before us. So the longer people do it, the more talent gets there.
Today, we sit down with Nick Schrock, founder and CEO of Valoroo, a company that's been shaking up the logistics industry since 2019 by specializing in nearshoring talent from the Philippines, Belize, and Mexico. With a track record of helping U.S. logistics companies find top-tier experienced talent overseas, Nick brings his unique insights on building an agile team and optimizing costs in a rapidly evolving market. In this episode, we discuss the state of nearshoring within logistics. We'll break down the differences between nearshoring, offshoring, and reshoring, and address hot topics like the ongoing freight recession, the impact of AI, and the changing landscape of tariffs. Nick shares real-world stories on how nearshoring isn't about replacing American jobs, but rather elevating them by letting U.S. workers focus on higher value tasks. As always, if you found value from this content, please like and subscribe. All right, Nick Schrock, welcome back to Beyond Fulfillment.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's always good to see you.
Yes, yeah, we appreciate you taking the time. So, Nick, you've been on the show a couple different times talking about the entrepreneurial journey and what Valoroo is doing. And for those that may not know, you're the CEO and founder of Valoroo, a nearshoring company that's been around since 2019, so the past 6 years. And you're primarily operating out of supplying talent from the Philippines and Belize. Is that right?
That's correct, and we're also in Mexico as well.
In Mexico also. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Mhm.
And so we specifically are talking today about the state of nearshoring within the logistics industry, and certainly a topic that's on people's mind with all the changes, the uncertainty, different things going on. So we just want to dive deep into some topics that are relevant and provide context and value for the audience here. But let's just start too, because we hear these terms being thrown around: nearshoring, reshoring, friendshoring. Can you just give us a breakdown of what those are?
Yeah. And it is interesting because there's also offshoring, right, which is kind of where this started in the 90s, where people were hiring call centers in India and the Philippines, other places in Asia, and then someone else, and then once people call centers, let's just say people doing office style work that might not be in Texas or Chicago. It's like someone opened an office in Mexico, Colombia, Belize, you name it. That's more nearshoring. So think of it as just offshoring, but closer, right? You could get in a car and you could drive there. It'll take you long hours, but it's actually, you can get there besides going all the way to the Eastern Hemisphere. Where when you're talking about reshoring, this is more on manufacturing, where nearshoring, outshoring, that's like office work, things like that. But instead of manufacturing an iPhone, if Apple decided, hey, I want to go to Mexico City, I want to build a factory, I want to beer this back to bring this over, that's more of that friendshoring. And then if that was in the United States, maybe they go back to Michigan to build cars. That's reshoring. So reshoring it back to there. Where if you would, I don't know if, I guess it technically would be if you brought your call center back to St. Louis or back to Chicago, that would be reshoring. But that's not really what the industry talks about. Reshoring is much more on a manufacturing basis. At least that's how I understand it. So.
Okay. All right. And so with Valoroo, the main benefit you offer people is lower cost labor and still at a very high level. Is that right?
Correct. Where pain points of offshoring and nearshoring in the past was like, yeah, it's cheap, but we've all had those terrible phone calls calling customer service. So what we wanted to do is like, hey, let's find people with 10 years of experience that speak perfect English, that understand our industry. Let's hire them and put them to work in different logistics companies throughout the US. So 100%.
Okay. And within logistics, you're mainly working with 3PLs and freight brokerages for back office and admin style
That's
positions?
correct. Yeah, helping people move freight around. We work with some shippers as well, but you're right. The majority of the folks we help are 3PLs, freight forwarders,
Okay.
asset-based companies, et cetera.
Okay. And we've been in this freight recession for the last number of years, and we everyone sees the headlines with the number of brokerages going under and all that sort of thing. I mean, how have you seen that impact the nearshoring market at large overall?
Yeah, and I would say overall, right before we're still in this, in my opinion, this kind of freight recession that we're seeing where prices are so tight and competitive. But before that, when it was just businesses were booming, people were paying $4 or $5 a mile to move things across the US. It's like everybody went to near because they couldn't find enough talent. It's like, hey, I just need to hire people because I need butts and seats. I need to be able to fulfill this. And then once the market got really tight, it was people came to nearshoring for a different reason, but in the same amount of volume. It's like, hey, I still need the people to support the amount of freight. It's like, yeah, it's dwindled a lot, but I still need these headcount. But I have a tenth of the margin I had, 18 months ago, 2 years ago. So people have come to us like, hey, I want this high level of talent. How do I find these people that maybe aren't so expensive in Los Angeles, but I still need this stuff done? And that allows them to also cost of living has continued to rise with inflation. I need to be able to pay my local people more. So maybe they don't have as many people, they can pay people what they deserve as because they have more margins to go around. So as the market's tightened, I need profit margin maintenance maintain the same. I still need the head count because freight's so demanding. Nearshoring's been a great option for them.
Okay. And how are you seeing this play out, right? Like in your opinion, we're still in this freight recession. Prices are still very tight and competitive. It's still people still aren't getting the margin they want. So nearshoring is certainly an option to mitigate that. But I mean, do you see that as like sustainable longer term for the industry?
Yeah, I would. I would, because as more people near shore, and this isn't as it hasn't just popped up since, 2022. People have been doing this for longer than that. Like we opened 2019, there's companies open before us. So the longer people do it, the more talent gets there, right? It's like you can find somebody in the US with 30, 50 years of supply chain experience. It's like offshore, you can find someone with 5 years, 10 years, right? It's a few years here or there. But the longer people outsource and nearshore, the better the talent gets, right? The more people flock to this industry and know. So you can hire somebody, at the third of the price in the US as the US and still get someone with a CPA or a master's degree in supply chain. So I think the talent's going to continue to go up and people are going to be able to pull more value out of pulling talent from around the world. So yeah, I think it's going to only continue to go up because as AI comes into the picture, as tariffs and all these challenges come into the market, margins are just going to continually get compressed. So you need great talent. You need them to be at cost-effective rates, and nearshoring, outsourcing, great solution for that.
Okay. And so we're going to talk about AI and the tariffs and all that. Another question. So given that, you highlight the benefit of nearshoring and particularly with these countries, Philippines and Belize and whatnot, to where you can supply, great English speaking talent at a much lower price. I mean, what does that say for the US worker?
Yeah, and what we've seen in ours is not necessarily we I don't think in the 6 years, I don't think we've ever done what I would call like a repeal and replace. Like, hey, we have this team of 10 customer service reps in Des Moines, Iowa. Let's hire 10 Filipinos or 10 Mexicans, and then that way we can lay them off and we save two-thirds on our headcount. It's more of, hey, maybe instead of my 11th person, I'm going to hire this from a different country. Or I'm going to take these 10. Yes, I'm going to hire these 10 in the Philippines. And then now, instead of these people being customer service reps that are just answering phones, building orders, track and tracing trucks. It's like, let's have them be revenue generating. Let's have them actually talk to customers, right? Understand, build relationships. Let's find out how we win more lanes. Let's drive more value. That's really what we see more. And I would say almost, 100% of the time is people's roles getting redefined. And we've seen and measured that employee retention in the States actually goes up because it's like, hey, I used to have to make 200 phone calls and build 50 loads a day, which is just repetitive and tedious and over again. And it's like now they're actually driving value that they can directly correlate. And what I do now, and even what I've done my whole career, it's like I just want to drive value for my company. I want to see what I'm doing actually makes a difference. And for the US worker, I think it's much easier to relate driving value when they're actually talking to customers. They can actually see the profits coming out of the loads they're working on versus just tracking and tracing or versus load building. And I'm not saying, and those things, of course, drive value. We need those done for the logistics company to be valuable and drive a profit. But it's hard to see when you're just doing the same thing over and over again every day. So I would highly recommend everyone kind of do this just because it makes your job easier. It really does.
Okay. So it's almost kind of not automated, but outsourcing these maybe lower level tasks so that the US worker who is a higher cost employee can focus on higher level activities, and therefore it's a win-win for the employer.
Yeah, and when I hear lower level, it's like it's right, but these things can still be really complicated, right? It's like, oh, you get a low. We were working on something which we're trying to automate a portion of it, but then we're trying to assign. It's like, hey, we need to build this load, and some of it's in the email, some of it's in the TMS. You got to go to this website for this. You got to go this, and it's like it's a complicated process to get this whole shipment set up and processed, and you got to reach out to all these people. But just because it's complicated doesn't mean it's still repeatable. You're doing the same thing over and over and over again. So it's great to kind of pass that off so that way you can build the relationships and kind of do more emotionally valuable things.
Okay. All right. And you brought up AI earlier. So how have you seen AI impact the nearshoring and the labor market at large?
Yeah, and I would say there's we've seen people drive a lot of value in some automations and some doing things. I would say what companies talk, like what I hear in the news, excuse me, is much different than what I'm actually seeing on the ground, right? It's like, oh, we replaced 70% of our workforce and we're doing this and this and this. And it's like, yeah, things are getting automated, right? And things are that a human used to do, a robot's now doing now. But what I see much more of is the 80% of the work that we couldn't even get to before, just because we didn't have the bandwidth for it. AI is allowing us to get to that, right? I've not seen anyone substantially reduce their workforce in a meaningful way without having a quality degrade attached to it, right? And maybe that's coming down the road. What I'm more saying, it's like, hey, it's like, how do we, instead of maybe 3 years ago, as our business doubled, our headcount would have to grow by 70%. It's like that might only be 30% today because AI is allowing the humans to be more efficient and drive more value. And I think that's only going to continue to increase. Do I think we are around the corner for no one having jobs? I think we're very far from that, right? It's my business is supposed to be the first one to be hit. It's like, hey, outsourcing low level, entry level jobs. AI was supposed to eat this stuff up 3 years ago, and we're triple to 4 times the size, right? And that just shows there's still a huge need for human interaction and different things like that. I would say don't just avoid AI like the plague. I would say it's just an advanced form of software. It's like 5 year. Look at track and trace. It's like we call it track and trace because that's more of a legacy title. No one's track and tracing trucks before. Everybody's got apps on their phones. This is fully automated unless someone falls off or does these different things. We have larger track and trace teams than we have ever had. They're just doing different things. They're not calling drivers, asking them where they are anymore. It's like things have changed. Things will continue to progress. I don't think we're on a jobs apocalypse. that everyone's kind of preaching for. I think that's a little bit of hype cycle. So startups can raise more money, to tell you the truth.
Ah, all right. And I'm sure you've seen, because I see these all the time, and they're really geared towards entrepreneurs, like these companies that are saying that, hey, you can save X amount and reduce your payroll by, like you said, like 70% by just implementing this AI. And you hear, like you said, is it maybe just hype to raise more money and to further the company that way? Because you hear that, it doesn't sound like something you'd want to do, but there's so much of that marketing out there in terms of all these AI companies.
Yeah, and tell you the truth, it's like, Dave, I'm a capitalist, right? If I can, it's like a great example. It's like I've tried this maybe 3 times, an AI SDR. It's like, hey, how do we reach out to more people? But I look at and I've tried them. None of them have worked for me. And it's like, I think they will work eventually. They're just not there yet, right? And so I feel like this is kind of coming down to it. I do think it's just a hype cycle where people are really adaptive to on the customer end. It's like, how many emails do you get that are sales emails? You know it's written by an AI, so you just don't respond. It's like you can tell just by reading it. An AI calls me on the phone. It's like I can tell this is an AI. A human, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, and it's like I'm gonna hear them out. It's like it's a sales guy. I've done that job. I'll listen to your pitch, and maybe it's valuable. Or if I don't feel any empathy towards a computer, it's like I'm just gonna hang up on them. So even if they're better on the phone, the success rates drop. And again, I think we'll get there eventually. I just don't think we have a ton of worry in the next 18 to 24 months of us all being out of work. So.
Mm,
And
okay.
I might be on, on your podcast later, just being out of business because I'm wrong because AGI came around, right? But the world's got bigger problems if we're all out of work. Kind of as you mentioned, a previous guest said, it's like, hey, if no one has jobs, I think we have a much larger problem in this. I'm kind of just head down doing this. We're building our own AI, so I don't want to be hypocritical. It's like we're fully embracing this. We're trying to be efficient for our clients, build automations. It's like Philippines and Mexico is the same way. If a computer can do it, why should a human do it? It doesn't matter where they are around the world, but there's so much work to do. Every logistics person knows it's like there's so much to do. Let's automate what we can so we can get to more work and drive more value for our shippers.
Absolutely. Okay. And another hot button issue is the tariffs going on. And we talked earlier too about sometimes it can be so fragmented to where it can hit one company extremely hard and then the other company may not notice just depending on their niche or their industry. So I mean, what are you seeing from the 3PL and the freight brokerage side with regard to tariffs?
Yeah, great question. And 100% to your point. It's like if you're moving 100% auto and an auto tariff comes through, you're panicking for sure. It's like you're trying to figure out what you need to do. But I would say as a whole, the supply chain has come really resilient because after the pandemic, we had this surge, everybody expanded, did all these different things. And then we've been in a freight recession ever since. So everybody tightened their belt, got really tight. But now with these huge swings, owners and leadership of these companies have found out, hey, these big swings aren't good for my business. I need to learn how to weather these storms a little bit. So when we saw the big first waves of tariffs come in, no one made massive changes. People prepped for it, maybe pre-ordered ahead and kind of got ahead of these different things. But they're not changing the way they run their business. They're not making massive hiring. They're not doing massive layoffs in anticipation. They're kind of waiting to see, and kind of we're a little bit on the back end of this. I would say rightfully so. It's like, hey, they go up, they come down, they go up, they come down. They're kind of waiting for the ground to settle to figure out what business changes I need to make. And we saw this, while the strikes were going on in the auto market. We've seen this with the tariffs. If freight market starts to come back, we don't see, earlier, what was it, January, Freight Waves is like, freight recession's over. They kind of exclaimed it. And we're kind of sitting in relatively the same realm here that we were earlier in the year. It's come up a little bit, but it's not a wave of freight that everybody's rolling in money again. And so I've seen them weather the storm more than they have in previous years, where they were trying to be first to adopt, first to change, and now people are being more patient.
Mm. Okay. And with Mexico specifically, that you've added recently as a another source for your talent, and that's certainly been a country that's been in the spotlight with regards to tariffs, and it's still, as we record this in late July, still being negotiated. It's still right, not necessarily final. I mean, what are you seeing with the market there as well with regards to, how the tariffs on that country may affect their economy and then the people there?
Yeah, so Mexico, and this is the on more of a labor standpoint, Mexico is tougher to work with than some other countries, and I don't mean bureaucratically. I mean they just have more employee friendly labor laws, right? There's like large severance agreements, lots of benefits tied to this. So when we place people there into U.S. companies, there's a certain level of education. And I think the same thing happens on the reshoring basis. But what greatly outweigh those negatives, maybe not negatives, but adoption cost, right? Of education costs, these different things, is just geographical location. It's like you can still have the benefits of building, outside of the United States, but then being able to ship over the road or rail into the US, where you just can't do that in Asia, right? It's like, okay, yeah, you build this at this cost, you get all these labor benefits and this cost of production benefits, but now you have delays, it's harder to control quality and things like that. I think I'm not sure how, because we just operate less in the manufacturing space. I wouldn't want to speak to it. Um, I'm not sure how the tariffs are going to impact the nearshoring. Um, but I think people will continue to move to Mexico or other parts of Central America to develop that. Because large shippers are also patient, right? It's um, if we don't have a new administration in 3 years, we probably will in 8 or 12. And in the grand scheme of things, that's not the longest time for companies that have been around 200 years. So it's like they know they can either weather this storm of current tariffs that will shift back, or figure out ways that are most profitable for them. So yeah, I don't have a super good direct answer just because I'm not super close to the manufacturing of nearshoring
Okay.
or onshore, reshoring, things like that.
Okay. All right. And so as we record this, in late July, what are you seeing in terms of how you think the rest of Q3 and Q4 is going to play out given the tariff situation, and how we've been in recent, like you said, we're still in the freight recession in recent years. I mean, what do you see coming for the rest of the year within the logistics industry?
Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea. Yeah, I wish I knew. I wish I know. I'd say if you ask me this every quarter, like I bet I'm 50%, 50%, 50% right, 50% wrong, just trying to like guess where the freight market's going. What we've done, it's like we just put our head down. It's like let's just find the best people we can, give them the best training that exists, and put them in and just deliver like an awesome product. And it's been really beneficial for us through a freight boom, a freight recession. And I would say our customers that do that, they're in the same boat. It's like they're just consistently putting their head down and doing the best. Where if you're subject to the the ebbs and flows of the economy, it's like your business is kind of fragile at that point, right? And it's like I would say, look at the product. Yeah, I wish I knew. I really do. I hope it's up and to the right. I hope we're all like doubling what drivers are getting paid and everybody's making lots of money because that's good for everybody. It's like the more money that's kind of moving around. So that's my prediction, right? It's like an overly positive one, but I have no, even if looking at metrics, it's like if it's kind of like knowing if you knew what's going to happen in the stock market, you're going to be a billionaire. Nobody really knows, unfortunately. So, what do
Hmm.
you think? I'm curious. You talk to more industry folks than I do. Where do you think we're headed?
There's a lot of uncertainty with the tariffs still, but I mean, I think the long-term view is very good, but I think there's still going to be a lot of short-term volatility, and a lot of people really need to be nimble and agile. And again, there's just a lot of unpredictability And so I think it's people need to really, keep a close eye on, just the results they need, year month to date and whatnot, and kind of weather the storm in the short term. But I think long term, the outlook looks very good as this all settles and once we have certainty on what this is all going to look like.
Do you think we'll have the other kind of side to the coin is do you think we'll have inflation concerns? Like, because government just passed a huge spending bill, tariffs are inflationary, at least you can call it transitory, but it's increasing the cost of things. Do you think that will play a factor in our realm at all?
I just recorded an episode. It just came out actually, like an hour ago on YouTube, with
Gotcha.
Jim Tompkins, and he's a true expert in this space. But he's got a bunch of data how so far the tariffs have not caused inflation, and his really thesis for that is like it's logical that they would, but because the situation is dynamic, people adapt to change so quickly, basically, and that it's not like they're just going to accept a higher cost. They're going to figure out a way that if this is the tariff, then they're going to go over here or do this or change things to basically deal with that more effectively. So,
Yeah, I'd love to talk to him because it's what I think. It's like I don't think if these tariffs are inflationary, kind of what we talked about. I don't think we'll see it yet because, like we said earlier, it's like nobody knows where they are yet, right? It's like I saw a speaker at I think it was TIA, and he's like, "Hey, these tariffs go into place tomorrow. Raise your hand if you think they are going into place." And no one raised their hand, right? And they didn't, right? Because the deadline was approaching, it was changing. So these tariffs have yet to settle. So price increases are inflammatory to client relationships. So you don't want to jump the gun, right? You don't want to give them a price increase and then have to pull it back and all these different things. So I'm curious that like I don't think we would see, and I'm not an expert. He sounds like much more of an expert than me, but will we see this inflationary hit after these tariffs settle, right? Because right now, why would you give a price if they might not stick, right? China was 40%, now it's not, and now it's back on the chopping block. Like they're still fighting each other. So I don't know. I'm curious. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, t time will tell. Time will tell.
Right.
But thus far, they haven't, and he had a lot of data highlighting all the
Yeah, they
other
have it.
good things.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Nick, so if for companies that may be considering nearshoring or logistics, people out there that maybe are not familiar with Valoroo, why don't you give them a quick overview of the services that you offer and how you can best benefit them?
Yeah. So, as we kind of talked briefly, we do nearshoring and outsourcing for logistics companies, which essentially means we find people that are outside the United States that have already worked in logistics, that have already worked in supply chain, that know what a BOL, POD is, know how freight moves, and we place them on a dedicated basis with different supply chain companies. So if somebody needs a logistics coordinator, carrier sales, load builder, you name it, it's like we can find experienced reps that are not kids fresh out of college. They're been in the working workforce for 10 plus years, know what they're doing, and we'll place them and train them, manage them, help you develop them, and be a great part of your team. So it's what we've been doing since 2019. Had a lot of success in it. And if somebody wanted to talk to me, you can feel free to shoot me an email, nick@valoroo.com. And then our website is valoroo.com.
All right. We'll link all that in the show notes for everyone, Nick. All right. We appreciate the time as always and the insights on the market, and best of luck for the rest of this year.
You too. Thanks, Dave.
All right.